The name of the game is Power Grid. The point of the game is you want to be the player at the end of the game to power the most cities. In our 3-player example, the game will end once when the 17th city has been built. During the game, players are going to be auctioning for power plants, buying resources to power those power plants, building cities in the map of Germany and expanding their power grid, using their power plants to power those cities, and then getting money or electro based off of how many of those cities they were able to power. Looking here at the turn reference card, we can see that each round is separated into 5 phases. First, we are going to determine turn order, followed by buying power plants, buying raw materials, building, and bureaucracy. At the beginning of the game, turn order will be randomly selected, but as soon as players begin to get houses out on the board, then turn order will be determined by whoever has the most cities. Next is buying power plants, and we can see here that the first player is going to start this phase of the round. In Power Grid, power plants are bought through auctioning. During the first round of the game, everyone must buy 1 power plant, but on subsequent rounds, you can choose to opt out of buying a new power plant. Looking here at the market, the top 4 cards are the actual market power plants that you will be able to place bids on, and the bottom 4 cards are the future power plants that will potentially enter the actual market later in the game. The number at the top left-hand corner of the card represents its opening bid value. So if I were first and I wanted to buy this power plant, then I would have to start the bid at 3 electro. The next player can choose to either raise the bid over 3 or pass. When you choose to pass, you are taking yourself out of the auction for that particular power plant. When everyone except for 1 player has passed, then that player who has yet to pass will win the power plant, putting it in front of themselves. You then draw a new power plant and organize the market numerically. Looking at the table on page 7, you are only allowed to have 3 power plants in front of you. So when you have 3 power plants and you decide to buy a new one, you must choose to discard one of your power plants. The only exception is the 2-player variant where you can have 4, but you should have more friends than that when you play this game, loner. If everyone in future rounds chooses to pass, then you would discard the cheapest power plant in the market and replace it with a new one from the deck. Looking at the 3 power plant here, we can see on the bottom part of the card that it will require 2 barrels of oil in order to power 1 city, which brings us into the next phase of the round, which is buying raw materials. The next phase of the game is buying raw materials, and if you look down here, it says that the last player begins. That means that if green went last during the previous round, then they will go first this round, then followed by blue, and then red will be last. On the bottom part of the board here, we see the resource market, which is divided up into prices as listed by the number on the upper right-hand corner of each rounded square. The 3 power plant requires 2 barrels of oil in order to power 1 city. So starting from the cheaper end, you can buy 2 barrels of oil for 3 electro each, total of 6 electro. You can only store resources on the power plants you own, and the rule here listed by the turn reference card is maximum double input per power plant, meaning that your power plant can store twice the amount of resources it needs to work. The 3 power plant needs 2 barrels of oil to work, so that means that we can store up to 4 barrels of oil on our power plant. If we wanted to buy more barrels of oil for this power plant though, the price will go up, seeing as there is only 1 barrel of oil that costs 3. The next will be marked up to 4 electro, making the total purchase 13 electro. Some power plants, like the 13 here, require no resources to power cities because they use hippie powers like peace, love, and a strict vegan diet. Once we have bought the resources that our power plants need, Now we can begin to build houses in the cities so that we can begin to power them. The next phase is building, and once again it says last player begins and continues in reverse order. Looking at the board here is a map of Deutschland that is separated into 7 regions whose soil has been tainted with all the power plants we keep building, and cities with extravagantly large pipes connecting them to other cities with extravagantly large pipes. If we look here at Essen, board game mecca of Germany, it is divided into 3 sections, 10, 15, and 20. These sections correspond with the 3 steps of the game, which we will get to later. For step 1 of the game, which we are currently playing, players are only allowed to build a house on the 10 spot of the city, meaning that the price of putting a house there is 10 electro. So if Green wanted to start building their power grid in Essen, they would pay 10 electro and place a house there and move their marker up on the city number track on the upper right hand corner of the board. From there, any additional houses they wish to place in cities will have to connect to Essen by paying the connection cost. We can see the connection cost between Essen and Dusseldorf is 2. So if Green wanted to build a second house in Dusseldorf, they would pay 10 to put the house in Dusseldorf, plus the 2 connection cost for linking Dusseldorf to totaling 12 electro. Sometimes there isn't a connection cost. The cities are just simply touching each other, like we see with Essen and Duisburg. If we look at the table on page 7, it shows that there are only a certain number of regions on the map that we can use correlating with the number of players. So in our 3-player game example, we are only using 3 regions of the board. Once Green established their first house in Essen, they claimed the red region as part of the current game. Let's say that Blue put their first house in the blue region, and I as Red put my first house in green to spite the green player for taking my tracts of land. That would mean that the only regions we would be using in this game would be the green, red, and blue regions. Once players start putting enough houses out there, if the number of houses they have on the board is equal or greater than the number of any power plant in the power plant market, you must discard that power plant from the game and replace it with the new one from the deck, rearranging the market accordingly. As I said before, Power Grid begins in step 1, where players can only build 1 house on a single city. Once a player has built their 7th house, as shown by the table on page 7, then we enter step 2, where now everyone can build on the 15 spot on cities, which costs 15 electro. And of course a single player cannot have 2 houses in the same city, because that is dumb. You also discard the lowest power plant from the market and draw a new one from the deck. Step 3 will begin when the card with the big 3 on it is drawn from the power plant deck. Now the 20 spot on the cities are opened, costing 20 electro to build a city there, and the power plant market is reduced to 6 cards. All of them entering the actual market, meaning all of them can now be auctioned off. Now that we have built our cities, now we can enter the final phase of the round, which is Bureaucracy. And during Bureaucracy, you are gonna get some money, and then depending on what step of the game in, not phase, like the stupid turn reference card wants it to say, you are going to do exactly what it says. First is getting money, and the way you earn moolah is based on how many cities you are able to power as shown on the backside of the turn reference card. The white number is the number of cities you power, equals the black number, which is the electro you will receive. So according to this table, if Green uses their 3 power plant, discarding 2 oil barrels, returning them to the supply, and powering their house in Essen, they will receive 22 electro. If you power no cities, then the game feels sorry for you and gives you a minimum of 10 electro. Now, the last 2 parts of this phase are dictated by what step of the game we're in, not phase like the stupid turn reference card. So, because we are in step 1, what we are going to do is we're going to place the highest numbered power stack on the bottom of the power plant deck. So that will go beneath the 3 card. Finally, we are going to restock raw materials into the resource market. The table on the back of the manual shows, according to which step of the game you are in and how many players, you are going to put that many resources back into the market, starting from the right side going left, like some kind of Japanese manga. So in my 3-player game on step 1, I'm going to put 4 coal, 2 oil, 1 garbage, and 1 uranium into the resource market, which at the end of the round, whoever is able to power the most cities is declared the winner. If there is a tie, then whoever has the most money is the winner, much like in real life. And if there's another tie, then it's whoever has the most cities on the board is the winner. And if there's another tie, then you both enter the Thunderdome and engage in gladiatorial combat, and whoever is the winner is not only the winner of the game, but is also deemed
the Lord of Lightning.
Wow.
And that is the game, and the best way to learn is to play.